If you've had a break since the end of side 1, remember to use the R power on procedure to start up. But if not, check that all windows are closed before we move on. Now, everything we've done so far has assumed that your computer is configured to work just the way it left the factory, and that's obviously important while you're following this guide. But RISC OS 3 gives you much more power to tailor your system to your own preferences, so let's move on to look at Configure. If it's not already on the icon bar, double-click on Configure in the Apps directory to install it, and then move onto the icon and click on it. Now, this window is different. It has icons for all the RISC OS features that you can configure yourself. As you can see, you can configure the computer's hardware, the printer, the mouse, the keyboard, and so on, as well as the way things operate, such as the alarm sound and how Windows work. Now, I won't go into all of the options now, but let's try out a couple of examples to give you an idea of the principles. Move on to the icon for Screen and click on it. The blank delay setting here makes the screen go blank if you're not doing anything, so let's try it to see how it works. Click once on the right arrow next to the blank delay box until the setting reads 30 seconds, and let go of the mouse. Letting the screen blank itself is a good idea, especially where you tend to leave the same application running for long periods of time. Over a long enough period, the application's image can tend to burn into the screen, so that you can still see it when the monitor is turned off. Well, obviously that reduces the life of your monitor, so setting the screen up to blank, if nothing happens for 30 seconds or so, is a useful way of protecting it. And it doesn't cause a problem, because the picture will return immediately you press a key or move the mouse. Try that. Wait until the screen goes blank, then just press one of the Shift keys or move the mouse a fraction to restore it. And for the rest of this program, we'll want to leave the blank set off. So, click on the left arrow once to set it back to off, then click on the close icon for this window. And what about the windows themselves? Click on the icon marked Windows to open the Window Manager dialog box. Interactive file copying lets you get on with other work while RISC OS copies files. If you're happy to stop while files copy, you can leave this off, and copying will be faster. But if you don't care how long copying takes, so long as it doesn't interrupt you, set it on. One other change, go into the area Allow Windows Off Screen and click each setting off. Now move the window around the screen once more. This time notice you can't move the window beyond the screen's edge. Well, when you're ready, click on the close icon for this window. And what about configuring the applications themselves? Click on the Applications icon in this window. You can use this dialog box to make any of the ROM-based applications start each time you switch your computer on. Well, how many of them you set on here depends on your computer's memory, but Calc, for example, is small enough and useful enough to start up each time you switch on. For now, though, close this window too. Now, these configuration options are relatively permanent because the settings are stored in a part of the memory that's powered by the battery. We've started this guide with the R power on to reset all the configure options to their factory settings, so when you finish the guide, you'll want to come back here and set up your own preferences. And once you have your ideal setup, it's a good idea to save it, and RISC OS 3 lets you do that too. Move on to the Configure icon on the icon bar, and click Menu on it. Then from the menu, open the Save submenu. Well, by dragging that Save icon to an open directory display, you can save the whole current configuration as a file. In fact, you can save any setup, and recreate it just by double-clicking on the Configuration File icon. So, if you need different setups for different jobs, that's how it's done. Well, we won't do that now, so move onto the Configure icon on the icon bar, click Menu on it, and from that, select Quit. I want to finish this guide with a look at printing. Now, we'll only be concentrating on the principles here, so don't worry if you don't have a printer attached to your system. Before it can print, RISC OS needs the printer driver for your printer, and that's another application you'll have to install. So, stop the tape now while you arrange your screen to give you displays for the root directories of your working copies of both the App1 and App2 disks. Installing a printer driver is a two-stage process. You have to install an application to manage the job, then give it the specific printer information it needs. Find the application Printers in App 1 and use Select to double-click on it. The Printer Manager icon will appear on the icon bar on the left with the other system icons. And you'll need to see it, so if you need to, move the window up out of the way. Now click on the icon to open a window for it, and we'll find the data it needs. Go into the App 2 window and find the folder icon marked Printers, and use Adjust to double-click on that. Here there's a subdirectory for each make of printer, so if you know which make of printer you have, use Adjust to double-click on its name now. But if you're not sure or you don't have a printer connected, double-click with Adjust on the icon for Epson. Now for the model. Again, if you know exactly which model you're using, select that. Otherwise, just as an example for this tape session, use the first printer icon you can see. Now press and hold and drag the icon into the window headed Printer Control and let go. So the Printer Manager now has the information it needs, and that may be all you need to do for your own setup. But printing is a potentially complex activity, especially if your model or your computer setup are non-standard. Click Menu on the printer name to get the Printer Control menu for this printer. If you do need to configure your printer setup, this is the menu you'll use. You can change everything from what sort of paper you're using to how your printer is connected. But I'll leave you to check with your manual and do that later if you need to. In particular, if you didn't find your printer listed, check with your printer manual. It may work like one of the standard ones on the list. When you have configured your printer driver correctly, you won't want to go through this procedure each time. So, move on to the printer icon on the icon bar and Menu on it. Notice this menu gives you the option to save your choices. But don't choose that option until you're certain that your printer driver is set up correctly. When you do save, the Printer Manager will be configured with those settings each time you install it in future. And don't forget that a printer driver consumes memory. If memory is limited, and you know you won't be printing in a session, don't install a printer driver. Well, we'll end with a quick look at memory with Task Manager. And there's a new shortcut. Put your pointer onto the Task Manager icon at the right-hand end of the icon bar, the acorn symbol. Click on that icon with Select, and you go straight to the Task Manager screen. And let's expand the window to fill the screen. Click on the Toggle Size icon. Well, the printer driver is taking a lot of precious memory, so we may well want to close it down now. But for that, we need the icon bar, which is covered up. But instead of dragging the window up, try a new shortcut. Hold down a Shift key and press the F12 function key. The icon bar pops up over the Task Manager window, and that's a very useful tip. However full your screen may become, you can always call up the icon bar with a single keystroke. And it works the other way too. Try it. Shift F12 once more, and the icon bar pops back. Again, and there it is. Well, we could use Menu to remove the printer and reclaim the memory. But we're at the end of this guide anyway, so let's finish by closing down the whole system. You're probably used to just switching off as you finish working, but as your work becomes more complicated, as you start multitasking applications, for example, it becomes more important to use the proper and safe procedure. Use Menu to click on the acorn Task Manager icon, and see the final menu item here is Shutdown, which is the correct RISC OS procedure to use when you're about to switch the computer off. Notice too you can call Shutdown with another function key combination, this time Control and Shift and F12. Well, let's try that. First, to get rid of the menu, click on a blank part of the icon bar. Now hold down Control and a Shift key together, and still holding them, press F12. Shutdown makes sure that any applications still running are properly closed, and it will warn you if there's any unsaved data you might want to keep. For example, if you didn't switch off at the end of side 1, you may get a message about the alarm database. If you do, just click on Quit. Well, Shutdown tells you that it's okay to switch off. So take out the disk, then switch off the monitor and the computer itself. And that's the end of this quick guide. But it's just the start of your computing with RISC OS 3. Don't forget to read the release note that came with the upgrade kit for further hints and tips. And from there, it's over to you. So good luck with your RISC OS computing.